You know, when we think about huge, life-changing transformations, we usually picture some big, dramatic moment. But what if that's not how it works at all? More often than not, it's the result of these tiny, almost invisible changes we make every day. So today, we're going to dive into this exact idea using James Clear's incredible book Atomic Habits to see how really small habits can lead to some truly remarkable results.
So I want to start with this number, 37 times. Just look at that for a second. What do you think that represents? Is it a stock market return, some kind of crazy growth metric? Well, it's actually something way more personal and a lot more powerful.
And there it is. This is the insane power of compounding. It's so easy to just dismiss a 1% improvement, right? It's barely even noticeable on any given day. But when you stack that tiny gain, day after day after day, the effect is explosive. It's not just adding up, it's multiplying. This right here, this is the core engine behind the whole idea of atomic habits.
And hey, this isn't just some theory. Let's look at the real-world story of British cycling. For nearly 100 years, these guys were, well, they were completely unremarkable. Then, this performance director, Dave Brailsford, came in with a totally radical idea, the aggregation of marginal gains. Basically, his plan was to improve every single thing they did by just 1%. They redesigned bike seats, they tested massage gels for muscle recovery, they even found the perfect pillow for each rider to get the best sleep. Now, on their own, these changes seem tiny, almost silly. But when you put them all together, whoa, they created a dynasty that just completely dominated the sport.
Okay, so if the math is that simple and the results are so powerful, why do most of our New Year's resolutions completely crash and burn by February? Why is it so incredibly hard to stick with good habits? Well, the book points to a very common and very, very human reason.
It really comes down to this. We expect our progress to be a straight line. You know, we go to the gym a few times, we eat a couple of salads, and we expect to see a change right now. But that's not how reality works. The results are delayed, they're storing up, kind of like energy building up behind a dam until you finally cross a critical threshold. That gap between what we expect and what actually happens is what Clear calls the valley of disappointment. And that valley is where most of our good intentions go to die.
To really get this, James Clear uses his perfect analogy. So, imagine you've got an ice cube, and it's sitting in a room that's 26 degrees. You start to slowly warm up the room. What do you see? Absolutely nothing. So, the temperature keeps rising, 27, 28, 29 degrees. You're putting in all this work, all this energy is going into the room, and yet you look over and that ice cube is stubbornly, well, it's just an ice cube.
You are right on the edge of a breakthrough. 30 degrees, 31 degrees. All that effort you've put in, and you still have absolutely nothing to show for it. This is that valley of disappointment. It feels like all your work is being completely wasted.
And then you add just one more degree. The room hits 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and boom, a fundamental change happens, a breakthrough. So was that 1 degree jump the only thing that mattered? Of course not. It was the sum of all the work that came before it. All that stored energy was finally unlocked. And that is exactly how our habits work.
Now, another huge reason we fail is our obsession with goals instead of systems. A goal is the result you want, like, I'm going to run a marathon. A system is the process that gets you there, like your training schedule. And here's the thing. Winners and losers often have the exact same goals. The thing that separates them is having a system that actually works. When you focus on the system, you get to feel like you're winning every single time you do your workout, which is way more sustainable than just waiting for that one single moment of victory at the finish line.
Okay, so we get the problem now. The real question is, how do we build systems that actually get us across that plateau of latent potential? Well, thankfully, Clear gives us a really simple, powerful, and easy-to-remember framework for doing just that.
The whole framework boils down to these 4 laws. You can think of them like levers that you can pull to build good habits and, just as importantly, to take apart your bad ones. So let's see how they work.
All right, the first law is all about the cue. That's the little trigger that kicks off your habit. A lot of our bad habits are just automatic responses to things we see all the time. So if we want to build a good habit, we've got to make its cue just as obvious.
So the strategy here is super simple. Stop hiding your good intentions. If you want to practice guitar, don't keep it tucked away in a case in the closet. Put the guitar stand right in the middle of your living room so you can't miss it. You're basically designing an environment that constantly nudges you toward who you want to be.
Next up, we actually have to want to do the habit. You know, human behavior is driven by the anticipation of a reward. So the more attractive and appealing we can make a habit, the more likely we are to actually do it. It just makes sense. A perfect example of this is a clever strategy called temptation bundling. There's this great story about an engineering student who linked something he wanted to do, which was watch Netflix, with an action he needed to do, exercise. He literally programmed it so the TV would only work if he was cycling. By pairing them, he made the exercise habit completely irresistible. So, what could you pair together in your life?
But even a really attractive habit can fail if it just feels like too much work. And that brings us to the third law. You have to make it easy. We need to reduce the friction. I mean, at our core, we're all kind of wired to take the path of least resistance. So the easier a habit is to start, the more likely we'll stick with it, especially on those days where our motivation is just zero.
And the 2-minute rule is the perfect way to do this. You can scale down basically any habit into a 2-minute version. Read before bed becomes read 1 page. Do 30 minutes of yoga just becomes take out my yoga mat. The goal here isn't to get results in 2 minutes, it's to master the art of just showing up. Because once you've taken out the yoga mat, you're way more likely to actually do the yoga. Make the starting ritual so easy you can't possibly say no. And finally, we have the last critical law that really makes a habit stick for the long haul. It ensures the behavior gets repeated over and over because our brains are fundamentally wired for immediate gratification. For a habit to stick, it has to give us some kind of immediate reward. It has to feel satisfying.
Check out this powerful example from Karachi, Pakistan. People there knew they should wash their hands, but the reward, not getting sick, is way off in the future. It's not immediate. So health workers introduced a premium soap that foamed up really nicely and smelled great. That immediate little sensory pleasure provided a satisfying reward right in the moment. And guess what? Hand washing rates skyrocketed. It just proves a fundamental rule of our behavior. What is immediately rewarded is repeated.
So we've got this amazing framework. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. But what is all this really for? Is it just about being a little more productive or losing a few pounds? The book argues, no. It's actually about something much, much deeper.
Really, what is the point of all this effort? If we only focus on the outcomes, on what we get, we're missing the most profound transformation that our habits can actually offer us. And this, right here, is the deepest purpose of our habits. The real goal isn't just to read a book, it's to become a reader. The goal isn't just to run a marathon, it's to become a runner. Every single time you perform a habit, you are casting a vote for a particular identity. You're giving yourself evidence, proof of who you really are.
So as we wrap this up, the question I want to leave you with isn't just what do you want to achieve? It's who do you want to become? Because your habits, those tiny daily actions, they're the path to becoming that person. So who are you casting your votes for today?